Your nervous system influences everything: your thoughts, your emotions, your behaviors, your relationships, and even how you perceive the world. It is the filter through which you experience everything and everyone around you, which means you don't experience life as it is. You experience it through the state of your nervous system. And this is why traditional self-help often fails. Many approaches, they don't take the nervous system into account. But if we don't include it and learn its language, we often stay stuck. And most people unknowingly go against their nervous system. They ignore stress, they suppress emotions, and they live a lifestyle that keeps them dysregulated. And the result is often anxiety and burnout and emotional reactivity. But instead of overriding our nervous system, what if we collaborated with it? Just imagine having the ability to shift between different inner states and being able to effortlessly access calm and focus. Now that's what mastering your nervous system can do, and that's what I've helped hundreds of clients and students do as well. So in this video, I'm going to break it all down: the science, the practical tools, and how you can start regulating your nervous system today. By the way, if you want to explore all that in detail and get access to the most effective guided practices to regulate your nervous system, then you might want to check out my Foundations course, and I will leave a link to it below the video. But for now, let's dive in. So, what do you think is the number one job of your nervous system? Well, it's to keep you alive, which is why it is responsible for all bodily functions that operate without your conscious control. It's basically your body's autopilot system. And depending on the circumstances, this system is controlled by a different software program or state. Now, there are three main primary programs, and understanding these is key to navigating your emotions, your energy, and your stress levels, because they each have different effects on how we feel, how we think, how we behave, and how we move through the world, really. And you can think of them like traffic lights. Now, there is orange mode, which is sympathetic activation, also called or known as fight or flight. And this is your body's gas pedal. It's your activation mode, right? It gives you energy to take action, to focus, to get stuff done, to exercise. But it also activates you in moments of stress or danger or when you're triggered, so you can fight or flight. Now, what happens in that state is that your heart rate increases, your breathing intensifies, your pupils dilate, and your digestion slows down. So for example, you're about to give a presentation in class or at work, and you're feeling anxious. And so you feel your heart is racing, your hands feel shaky, your stomach's tightening up. Essentially, you're in a sympathetic fight or flight response. This state is really important and essential for our survival, even though giving a presentation is definitely not life-threatening, but up here, we think it is unconsciously. And so this state, it requires a lot of resources. And so when they are overused, it can lead to chronic stress, to chronic anxiety, panic attacks, reactivity, burnout, and chronic health issues, because when this is going on for too long, your body shuts down to protect itself. Now, the green state, which is also called parasympathetic recovery state or ventral vagal, is our social and rest mode. This is the break of your nervous system, and it helps you relax and recover. It's basically your state of safety, connection, and flow. And in this state, you feel grounded, you feel adaptable, you feel clear-headed, and it helps to slow down your heart rate, slows down your breathing, and allows digestion to function properly. So for example, you're sitting with your best friend, you're having a deep conversation, you're laughing, you're feeling totally safe. Your body's relaxed and you feel present, you feel connected and at ease. When this state is balanced with the orange mode, with sympathetic, then you can move through life with ease. And you're just kind of going up and down. Your body is activating, coming back down, activating, coming back down. All good. And then we have the red mode, which is our parasympathetic shutdown state, also called dorsal vagal or freeze mode. And this is your nervous system's emergency handbrake, right? Your body's last resort. When an experience is too overwhelming and fight or flight isn't an option, your body shuts down. And this can show up as numbness, as dissociation, chronic fatigue, hopelessness, or depression. So for example, you get really bad news, and instead of crying or reacting, you just feel numb. You feel disconnected and like you're in a fog. And you might stare off into space, or you feel like you just want to curl up and disappear. This is a classic shutdown state. And this state is often a response to trauma. Now, we can also add on the fawn response, which essentially is the fourth nervous system state that we can shift into. And that is your body's stress response to try to please someone to avoid conflict, while at the same time disconnecting from your own emotions, your own sensations, and your own needs. So it's basically a mix of sympathetic and dorsal or shutdown. So for example, your friend makes a joke that hurts your feelings, but instead of saying anything, you just laugh along so they don't get mad at you. And you automatically agree with people, or you try to make them happy to avoid conflict, even when it doesn't feel right to you. That's the fawn state. Now, the interesting thing is that your dominant state influences your daily experience. Things literally look and smell and sound and feel different when we are in a sympathetic fight or flight state versus a parasympathetic rest and digest state. Now, the goal isn't to eliminate stress or to always be calm, but to move between these different states flexibly without getting stuck in orange, overdrive, sympathetic, or red, shut down and freeze. And that starts with increasing your window of tolerance, as we call it, which stands for your ability to handle stress without tipping into or getting stuck in dysregulation outside of your window. Now, most of your nervous system patterns were shaped in early life when you were growing up. And so if you grew up in a stressful home, you may lean towards sympathetic overdrive, and you're struggling with anxiety or chronic stress and panic attacks maybe. And maybe you've experienced trauma and you never processed it. Your body holds incomplete stress cycles, keeping you stuck in survival mode. And if you weren't taught to feel and express emotions, you likely have built up charge and activation in your system. Now, the good news is your nervous system is rewirable through conscious training. And this is thanks to neuroplasticity, which is your brain and your body's ability to change. And in this case, change means increasing your nervous system capacity to handle stress, to handle emotions, and store trauma. And by doing that, we increase our tolerance for emotional and physical sensations without shutting down. So let's talk about how to create more capacity to surf the waves of life stressors by regulating your nervous system and widening your window. The cool part about this is it's not rocket science. Regulating your nervous system is a skill. Just like going to the gym, you train it, and over time it gets stronger and more resilient. So how do you do that? Now, step one is always the foundation, and that is to create awareness. And you're already doing a part of this by watching this video. Plus, I highly recommend you get your hands on these two books, Widen the Window and Our Polyvagal World. These books will change your life, and they will help heal and regulate your nervous system. Now, the other part is applying what you learn by mapping your own nervous system. And the following questions will help you with that. What stresses you in your daily life? make a list. What triggers you into hyperarousal, overactivation, or hypoarousal, shut down and freeze? How do you auto-regulate? In other words, when and how do you self-soothe, and what are your stress compensation strategies, right? So when you're really stressed out in the evening and you're coming home from work, what do you do to soothe your nervous system? Is it that you go to the fridge and just eat a lot of chocolate? Is it that you have a glass of wine? Is it, whatever that might be? Just be conscious of how you normally auto-regulate, meaning how you usually automatically try to calm your nervous system. And on the other end of the spectrum is what helps you actually feel calm and safe. What are your regulating resources? And what are safe co-regulators, like people, pets, nature? Could be a friend, could be your dog, could be a tree out in a park. Now, step number 2. Many people skip this step and they go straight to step number 3, which is really unfortunate because this step is immensely important if you want to master your nervous system. The thing is, your body doesn't speak in words, it speaks in sensations. And so interoception, or somatic awareness, as we also call it, is the ability to sense what's happening inside your body. And training it means you're learning to understand your body's language and you learn to respond to it. And so most people are dysregulated because they don't feel or they ignore their body's signals. They don't know how to speak its language. So you have to train yourself to notice tension, to notice stress, to notice shutdown in your body before it escalates. Well, and how do you do this? Well, you start by paying attention to how your body reacts to daily stressors. Does your heart race in a conflict? Do you shut down when you feel overwhelmed? The first step to change is noticing. So I highly recommend you set yourself 3 alarms during your day, and when they go off, you check in with your body for maybe 30 or 60 seconds, doesn't have to take long, and just notice what's there. What sensations are present? Maybe tension, maybe pain, maybe your stomach is churning because you're hungry, maybe you feel heavy because you're sleepy. But above all, this work is about developing curiosity for your own body and your own nervous system. It really helps to become fascinated by your internal landscape in a non-judgmental way. Just think about it. Your body is a wonder of evolution, and every one of your reactions has a physiological function. Just how amazing is that? Step number 3 is to learn how to use the breath as a remote control for your nervous system. Conscious breathing and breath work are the fastest ways to shift your nervous system state, to regulate your emotions, and to improve mental clarity. So for example, you can use your breath to downregulate from stress, from sympathetic mode into parasympathetic rest and digest mode pretty quickly by, for example, using a slow extended exhale. So you could be breathing in for 4 seconds and breathing out for 8 seconds. So your exhale is double as long as your inhale, which activates your vagus nerve and really easily shifts you into a more relaxed state. Or you could use humming. Humming is a beautiful practice that I also use a lot. It very efficiently activates the vagus nerve, and it's super simple. So you just breathe in and then you hum it out. You tone it out. And you just do this for a few times and you'll notice how your body slowly relaxes. And another practice you can do is called the physiological sigh. So you basically do a double inhale, a short pause, then a slow exhale, and another short pause. So it goes like this. That's it. And you do this for a couple of minutes. And again, notice how it feels in your body when you do these practices. Now you can also use your breath to upregulate from shutdown, going from dorsal into sympathetic and then landing in ventral basically, because when we are in shutdown or in freeze, we need to first go through sympathetic mode to then land in rest and digest. And you can do this by activating your breath. So instead of extending your exhale, you can elongate your inhale. So for example, you could do a 4-second inhale and a 2-second exhale, kind of like this. Just that in itself, and I can already feel it, my heart's beating just a little faster, right? And I feel a little bit more energy in my body. Now, beyond the breath, there's more practices that help to upregulate us if we need that extra energy. For example, cold exposure is a really good idea. It doesn't have to be an ice bath. Just taking a mildly cold shower might also do the job, or just splashing cold water into your face. Or maybe physical movement can be a really good idea for you, like jumping up and down or shaking your body, or maybe doing a quick exercise, some push-ups, anything that just gets your heart rate up. And while these are all amazing practices that I'd highly recommend you familiarize yourself with, to rewire your nervous system long-term, consistency is key. And so you really need daily practices to regulate your nervous system and balance out your sympathetic and your parasympathetic. So as I mentioned, do regular body check-ins, right? Just ask yourself, how do I feel right now? And you can do this right now as you're watching this video. When it comes to breath work, I know as a daily practice, diaphragmatic breathing and coherence breathing, two very simple but very effective practices, are some that I recommend people do on a regular basis, even if it's just 5 minutes. So for diaphragmatic breathing, you just breathe in a way so that your lower ribs and your belly expand a bit on the inhale, and your lower ribs and belly relax again, deflate on the exhale. And while you're breathing in this way, you're going to breathe in for, let's say, 4 seconds, and you breathe out for 4 seconds. So you make your inhale the same length as your exhale. And you can try this out. Maybe you just do it to a count of 3. Maybe you do it to a count of 5. Just see what works for you and what your body responds to. Another great practice that you can do on the daily, let it be during your afternoon slump or before going to sleep, is non-sleep deep rest, also called yoga nidra. And those practices are great for deep recovery. They range from 10 minutes to 60 minutes. I like to do 30 to 45 minute practices, but they're just beautiful ways to connect to our bodies, get out of our minds, and really shift into a nice rest and digest parasympathetic state. And then 3 more things that I have to add on here. They're less practices than just ways of life. But the first thing is social connection and play. Co-regulation with other people strengthens resilience. It's really important for our parasympathetic nervous system and to balance out our stress that we experience so regularly. And just think about all the ways that you can incorporate play into your life. So for example, I love to go surfing. For me, that is pure play. I'm not in it to get better. I'm not in it to compare myself. I'm just out there connecting with nature, with the ocean, and I'm just having a good time and playing around with my board and the waves, essentially. Which brings me to my next point, which is spending time outdoors in nature. Going out into the forest, spending time with the trees, being at a lake, going to the beach, whatever you have access to. But spending time with nature just so quickly resets your nervous system and helps you balance out. I mean, just think about it. When you're stressed and you go and spend time in nature, that stress will very quickly dissipate. And it's something that I do on a daily basis as well, because it's just so good for my nervous system and my body, for my moods, and just becoming more stress resilient. And lastly is prioritizing sleep. because nervous system repair happens at night. So make sure you get a good night's sleep, make sure it's high quality, make sure your nose breathing, because the more time you spend in a parasympathetic state when you're sleeping, the better your nervous system can recharge. Now, generally, my recommendation is to find 3 or 4 or 5 tools or practices or rituals that work for you, and then practice them or do them daily. So for example, you can incorporate one breathing practice for 5 minutes. You can maybe take a cold shower every day, and you go out for a 30-minute or 1-hour walk out in nature. Those are 3 things that would already make a huge difference. Because here's the thing, if you only use regulating techniques or practices when you're in crisis, then they might help temporarily, but they won't actually rewire your nervous system in the long term. It's just like firefighting, right? Firefighters, they don't just practice when an emergency happens, they train daily so they're prepared when the real crisis hits. And the same goes for your nervous system. And also, change takes time. We're often working against a lifetime of dysregulation and nervous system conditioning, and so consistency is definitely key here. Now, I have to add on that regulation isn't enough for most of us, and that we actually have to heal at the root level. And one of the biggest mistakes I see is that people get into nervous system regulation work, but they avoid the deep healing. They hope surface level techniques would fix everything. But if you're chronically stuck in stress or shutdown, it's not just about regulation. It's about healing your nervous system at the root. And this means addressing unresolved trauma and incomplete stress cycles. And that requires deeper somatic work, not just techniques, but body-based trauma healing. And some of the most effective modalities for deep nervous system healing include somatic experiencing, NARM, coherence therapy, Hakomi therapy, conscious connected breathwork can also help. So if you want to go beyond surface level regulation and truly transform your nervous system, these deeper healing approaches are absolutely key. So your nervous system is the foundation of your emotional, mental, and physical health. When you learn to regulate it, when you master it, you gain control over your life, your emotions, and your reactions. And if you want to go deeper and learn powerful tools and practices to regulate and heal your nervous system, then do check out my Foundations course. You will find the link below the video. And if this video was helpful, let me know in the comments, what's your dominant nervous system state? Is it orange? Is it green? Is it red? Also, drop any questions you have in there as well. And so now that you know the basics of how to master your nervous system, there's one more key aspect that you need to understand to truly find healing. So watch this next video because in it, I explain it in detail. Thanks for watching. See you soon.